activists who've come out and questioned the Pakistani army, the ISI, the Pakistani government for what they claim are excesses by the Pakistani army. We've seen several such protests take place in Balochistan for months together. Now, after Operation Sindoor and India striking hard at Pakistan's military installations, the Baloch Liberation Army and other groups within Balochistan are hopeful that they can, with India's support, declare independence, take down the Pakistani state. Even as Pakistan continues to claim victory during this particular operation, the proof of Pakistan getting hit and getting hit hard is there for the world to see. India's Operation Sindoor has not only hit Pakistan's military installations, it has also exposed the fault lines in Chinese arms and Chinese weaponry that Pakistan has been using. The Baloch people are now hopeful that this could be the time where their dream of independence could be realized. For decades together, Balochistan has been wanting to declare independence. The Baloch people have been raising their voice against enforced disappearances, against atrocities of the Pakistani army. Now, as the Pakistani army reels under this onslaught, this offensive from the Indian side, the Baloch Liberation Army, other activist groups from Balochistan are hopeful that their dream of independence, that their dream of finally coming out of Pakistan Army's thumb could perhaps be realized. Akanksha, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Akanksha, the success of Operation Sindoor has given hope to some activists, to some groups within Balochistan now?
Absolutely, and it was shortly just days before Poonam that they had also released a press release where they had talked about how the entire Baloch operation is now open to Indian assistance. Of course, Indian government sources have always told CNN News 18 that they respect the territorial integrity of Pakistan, and they will not be joining hands with the Baloch army. But we've seen the kind of sway that the Balochis have in Pakistan. This was amply evident after the hijacking of Jafar Express. And they have again, of course, Baloch leaders like Mir Yar Baloch have publicly declared independence. Indian victories against two countries, Pakistan and China. That's what they've said, that is not just against Pakistan, and Pakistan has no faith and no confidence to fight the Balochi people. Pakistan is facing severe internal crisis, including economic collapse, that is political instability and threat from TTP, even Lashkar and Daesh, and serious backlash in provinces like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Sindh. They're saying that they have survived brutal crackdowns by the Pakistan army, and that the Balochis have increased their own operational sophistication with 71 coordinated attacks across 51 locations in Balochistan in May 2025 alone. They have the Baloch Liberation Army and Baloch Raj Joy Sangar, which is the BRAS, are experts in ambush, IED attacks and sabotage, especially against military convoys and CPEC infrastructure. So that's a direct challenge also to China when they are talking about CPEC infrastructure, Poonam. And they've amply made it clear that by seizing highways at various, crossways, even destroying military checkposts of the Pakistani army, and by hoisting Baloch flags, they have also attacked gas pipelines, mineral transport vehicles, and Chinese BRI and CPEC projects. And that they are now expressing that they are very hopeful of attacks on CPEC infrastructure like Gwadar Port are going to attract countries against China, and that means that will also call for greater US interest in this entire region. So the Balochis have also thrown an open invitation to India. India, of course, being the democracy that is also respected at a global level, is not going to take up that invite, but they have said that they are very willing and they already are fighting against Pakistan state-sponsored terrorism. Poonam.
We have seen, Akanksha, the kind of protests that have broken out in Balochistan. That sort of liberation movement has been going on for decades together. But this Operation Sindoor and its success has given renewed hope. We've seen how on several global platforms as well, these Balochi activists, these leaders have often petitioned for the world to come and recognize the kind of excesses that are meted out to the Baloch people by the Pakistani army.
True. and they have had enough, because as you rightly said, that there is persecution of the Balochis, which has been constantly chronicled when it is about various Baloch activists who have been brutally massacred. And that is why they now, as I rightly highlighted, that these leaders like Mir Yar Baloch have already declared a fight for the Baloch independence. And even though Indians have refuted the Pakistani claims that India is running a proxy war through the Balochis, something that the Balochis themselves have also endorsed, that no, there is no external hand by India's forces. But time and again, they have made overtures that India must join in. But their own declaration that the Indian victory is not just against Pakistan, it is also against China. So while Pakistan, China and Turkey, along with Bangladesh, may want to open their own new axis, there is another front which is opening up against Pakistan, because remember, many of these Balochis have had their own bases in Iran. So it's not just the Baloch, but the Iranians and the Afghanis who are turning against Pakistan, and that in itself is opening one of the most threatened border areas for Pakistan. Several security experts have already said that the LOC and the international border that Pakistan shared with India was perhaps the most peaceful till they threatened us with the Pahalgam terror attack.
Right, Akanksha, thank you so much for getting us perspective on that front. More breaking news as we are not picking up now is the army chief has visited forward locations in Srinagar, Uri. That is what we're learning. He's personally congratulated and motivated troops for their exceptional performance during Operation Sindoor. The message that has come to the fore, it's one word but speaks volumes. Shabash was what the army chief said when he met these personnel, these Jawans there at these forward locations in Srinagar and Uri for carrying out Operation Sindoor successfully. The kind of messaging that has come to the fore is from the highest political offices of the Prime Minister, of the Raksha Mantri today as well. Now, the Army Chief too coming out and lauding his team, his forces for effectively implementing Operation Sindoor and putting Pakistan in its place. Akash, my colleague, joins us, getting us more details. Akash, what more can you tell us about Army Chief's message, or what exactly transpired during his visit?
Shabash is one word that was in fact said by Army Chief in his address to the troops, where he visited forward areas of Uri. In fact, Uncha Basti is one area where we have the logistical, station of Indian Army, where their Indian Army Chief visited and in fact interacted with the troops. We have been discussing, Poonam, about the sort of motivation that is required for the troops who are deployed in the forward areas. And this was one such motivation, where Army Chief visited the areas and in fact interacted with the troops and in fact appreciated the sort of efforts that they had put into the Operation Sindoor. We know how successful the operation was. We know it for a fact. And now, while Raksha Mantri and Army Chief, people like them visiting these troops, so it is a morale booster for them. And Shabash is one word that, was very much used by the Indian Army Chief for these troops. In fact, Army Chief visited Srinagar with Raksha Mantri, and while he went to 15 Corps headquarters, he also made sure that he's visiting the forward areas where a lot of shelling was coming in the past few days, specifically during the time when Operation Sindoor, was launched. We know that how Pakistan was, involved in the ceasefire violation, where they were sending, in fact, they were, involved in the high caliber firing, heavy caliber firing from the other side of the LC. And when they were using their howitzers, against India at the line of control, at that time Indian troops were retaliating. We have lost our 5 men. We know it for a fact. But then too, this visit has played an important role, because a morale booster, is something that was in fact required. This visit was required, and boost is also required at a time when you are away from the family, away from your loved ones, and you are living in such harsh conditions, Poonam.
Absolutely. Thank you, Akash, for getting us the latest on that front. My colleague Anna Narasimhan will take you forward with the rest of this broadcast. We have a very special lineup for you of how exactly India thwarted all of the misadventures, all of the attacks that Pakistan had planned for us.
Major Manik Jolly is back with us and we'll try and deconstruct two aspects. First up is, let's talk about Bharat's integrated air defense system. This is something that we touched upon and we've been talking about it again and again. But Major Manik Jolly, this is we need to understand this better. Sure. Because what starts at a ground level or something which is within my eyesight, that is about 1 to 2 kilometers, to about something which is far away and has not even entered Bharat's boundaries. Now, how do we try and counter something like that? So let's try and understand. Let's start from closest to us to the farthest from us. So first up, we will talk about the basic traditional air guns which are used to shoot down something like drones, the first layer, so multi-layered system. So can you explain to us?
So even before this, we can bring down a anti-drone rifle now.
Okay.
That have been given to guards, Garuds in Air Force, other soldiers guarding the bases and station, because that becomes the last and a very final defensive line for smaller drones. Because what happens is, even though you have this entire spectrum of defense layer, sometimes these drones are really tiny, like a stretch of this hand, right?
Right.
So the radars don't pick up, the lasers can't point to them effectively, the whatever weapons you're firing at them, they miss them. But the rifles catch them very well.
Right.
Because these are laser guided, you can point at them, it's like a rifle shooting on a target.
Right. So the first layer is not just the L-70. Can we go back to the first layer, please? I'm going to request our team to just go slowly, one by one, each layer. So the first layer, what Major Manik Jolly is saying, is the counter-drone man-pads, which may have the L-70 anti-aircraft guns and the Shilka also. So there are guns and there's also Shilka, but you are saying that there are also basic air guns. Basic air guns that can shoot the smaller drones, which cannot be perhaps caught by radar.
Yes, and if the system that is in development now, the anti-drone laser system, that will like complement that system, because that will be not only automatic, manual controls, laser guided, everything. And it will be able to take out these smaller drones, which are the more of a nuisance thing when the drone swarms come.
Right. And in this case, if we have the Shilka and these guns, the 23mm Zu-23 all come into this, they are the ones who can fire thousands of rounds in just a minute. So it can actually cover the sky to ensure that wherever it flies, at least one of them will catch it.
If you remember one of the greatest scenes of opening Band of Brothers, second or first episode, there are these guys ready to jump out of the plane, and all around there is anti-aircraft guns bursting. Correct. That is what more or less this is.
Okay.
It covers the sky with lead, with not a particular aim as much as covering it with lead and somehow hoping it will strike.
It will strike.
Since they've done a fantastic job, it means they did strike.
Now, are these the ones that we saw the flares with?
Oh yeah, these are the ones that you...
These are the ones which we saw the flares with. So when we are saying the flares travel, so these are these guns that work.
Yes, these are the same.
Okay, so this is a range of 2 to 25 kilometers?
Yes.
At least 2 to 25 kilometers within line of sight.
Yes.
Let's look at the next layer, the second layer. What is the second layer? The second layer is, say, a range of, say, 25 to 70 kilometers, where you have the point air defense, short range surface to air missiles. So the SR-SAMs, as they are called.
Akash and everything, they take over. Now they require a much more calibrated approach, where your electronic systems take on, radars take on, AWACS take on. We spoke about that yesterday. The entire EW network expands itself. It identifies the missiles. So we also know where enemy is, and they also know where we are. Correct. More or less. Let's say take it that way. When the missiles take off, even if you don't know, the system detects a missile in the environment. All the radars lock onto it. So let's say we are doing a test that a missile takes off, which is within your territory. It will disregard it. They will not get activated. But the moment the trajectory or the direction, speed, anything identifies it is coming to you, they get activated automatically. There's a lot of, the manual interference is very minimal here.
Very minimal, yeah.
And these guys take off, and like we spoke about the point of impact yesterday, they try and gauge what is the best point to hit it. So it should, like the range is, let's say 50 kilometers of a missile.
Right.
It wouldn't be wanting to hit it at 50 first. It also wants a very solid point of impact. So it's right, and it doesn't want to let it go outside its range. So you work on the parabola. These systems are very, very like millisecond kind of thing.
So this missile will go up like this. There is an enemy missile which is coming up, which is already part of this parabola. So you will look at perhaps the highest point and where this interception will happen. where it is the optimum point, and that is something it calculates.
Yeah, so we often see it in 2D, right?
Yeah.
Whenever see a missile goes like this, you are hitting like this. It's a very 3D concept actually. All three vectors
Dimensions
working, right?
come into play. Vectors.
Because even the range of missile, though it is point to point, it does follow a path to manage that point of impact.
Okay.
It might have to, even if it's coming like this, it might have to go a little like this to manage that. Again, it's magic
So it's
of
smart.
computers.
So
Very
it's smart.
Yeah.
It's smart. So let's move to the third layer. So this is, say, 2 to 70 kilometers has been covered. What happens in the third layer? So the third layer goes anywhere from about 30 kilometers to about 100 kilometers, and this is where the MR-SAMs, or the medium range surface to air missiles, and this is the entire Akash Tir. So this is how Akash Tir comes into play. So can you explain, this is again now from here to here the trigger.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So, as you would guess, the first thing would be the weapon systems being used here.
Yeah.
If the weapon system here has only 30 kilometers range, there is no point of this taking off for something that is a 100 kilometer range.
Correct.
So that is the defining difference here.
So there is an optimization which is also
Yes.
programmed or coded, yeah?
That is the beauty of Akash Tir. It is not just about launching weapon after another. It gives a three-dimensional view. To identify the target very effectively. It is very effective in friendly fire. That is one of the greatest features it has. It will not start, it will not start hitting our own missiles going in the same battlefield.
Correct.
It will not pick up our own missile, because one can assume if it is picking up every missile, why not our own? It has a very solid friendly fire, caution also. Second, we spoke about the range. Third is the kind of missile. Not every missile can take out every missile. So that specification is also listed out. Let's say when it goes beyond something, the S-400s will take.
Correct.
Someday S-500s or other systems will take.
Kusha will come.
Kusha will come.
We
Yeah.
talked about Kusha, which is going to be far more advanced than an S-400. So the S-400 is the fourth layer of this entire Chakravyuha, or Sudarshan Chakra as it's called. So let's call up the fourth layer, that is the S-400. So the S-400 then opens up this entire expanse right deep into the enemy territory, or even perhaps at their silos, if it is required.
Yes, for sure. And also the thing is that this is one of the solid defense against their ICBMs or something, their long range missiles. Because a single ICBM is like a massive thing.
Yeah, so ICBM is an intercontinental ballistic missile.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Sorry about that. So what it does is that these are like massive missiles carrying a lot of payload, very solid. You need to have something as solid as that to take it out. Even if you hit something, but you do not have the enough momentum or warhead, you can't impact that, right? Like we spoke also about, nobody has answered to BrahMos.
Correct.
It is because of the speed and the size and everything combined.
Correct.
So same way S-400 and Kusha in future are something that are potential enough to take out enemies' ICBM.
But their thing is, these are surface to air. They are not surface to surface, or they are not surface to sea. So the S-400 is largely guarding the land mass and the land area from any strike that is coming from the skies. So let's try and understand the four layers. The ground layer, the first layer, when you have your T-70s, you got the 23 Zu-23 guns and the air guns basically, which look at the small projectiles, small ones, close range. That's where it's targeted, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Yeah. The second layer is a short range missile system. So this is a range of, say, anywhere between 30 to 100 kilometers.
Why don't we take a moment to understand why the layers
25
are
to 70 kilometers. Okay.
The shortest range, the guy shooting down the drone will be a small drone.
Correct.
It will be, if the drone comes and hits here, both of us might get amputated or die something. Very limited range of damage, right?
Yeah.
Hence, you have a smaller system to negotiate them. The moment you get into 25-70 kilometer range, it is a missile.
It is a missile.
It can take out a room, it can destroy a building, it can take out a group of people. That can.
So the payload or the ammunition that it has is far greater scale, so the damage it can inflict is far greater compared to a drone or a small drone.
Yeah, it's just the basic logic that is, defining the battlefield.
So let me ask you, Major Jolly. Okay, so then so the next level again comes the size of the projectile as it grows, and here is where the aircrafts also come into play between the SR-SAMs and the MR-SAMs.
Exactly.
So this is where these are the ones that will go ahead and target aircrafts. Sometimes these guns, the Shilkas, also come in handy.
Oh, of course. You've seen them firing. So the role, the role of entire air defense get activated once airplanes are there. Airplanes are in the picture. So everybody is firing. They have pretty effective range. Low-flying planes they can take on. It's just that now the airplanes are so advanced they don't even have to enter enemy battlefield.
Correct.
They'll fire. So they are pretty much ineffective.
Ineffective against an aircraft that comes into the zone, but then aircraft that are firing from a distance, you have the S-400s or perhaps the MR-SAMs that come into play for a range of say about up to 100
So right from QR-SAMs, MR-SAMs to S-400, all this is airspace. But if you have a contested space and enemy is entering with Air Force something, everything will come in force.
Where does the Bhargav Astra, which is going to be tested to against swarms of drones?
Yeah.
Now, will that then come into the first layer itself of the air defense system?
I'm not sure exactly what is the range they are aiming for, but since it is working on jamming and dropping them, this is not like a explosive thing. I think it will be 100% effective to the range it acquires. We have seen some videos where hundreds of drones were dropped just by jamming.
Correct.
Fine, those are commercial drones. It's easier, and whereas the combat zones are much more complicated. But once we achieve that, it is the a bubble of jamming that will happen, and all radars, all drones will then just drop.
Now, but if all drones suddenly drop and they are loaded with TNT or explosives, wherever they drop, there will be explosion. If these are kamikaze or designed in such a way, so that is something again which we'll have to factor in.
Hence, that is where the tactics of battlefield come in, right?
Okay.
So if I'm stationed here and this is my base, I would not like to drop them over myself. You drop them right where the no man's land is. The moment they enter, that is where the wall is. They drop in no man's land, empty fields. That is how you will. I want to take a moment to say something, right?
Yeah.
The technology is with everybody.
Correct.
It's not I can say HQ9 or PL-15s were bad. They were good, right? We also have tech. Pakistan has tech. China has. Everybody has tech. I think what in the entire time we've been talking about Op Sindoor, we forgot the skill set of Indian Army officers.
So let's call the command system center, that is BEL, Bharat Electricals Limited, has made this entire integrated, designed this entire integrated system. And I think these are the officers and people who need our salute, because they've been able to make machines which are made on divergent platforms talk to each other.
There was a conversation going on last year. Some defense experts were talking and they're saying, we have bought Rafale and we have Russian radars and Israel. They don't talk to each other. Our defense system is fool. They were calling names, right?
Right.
But see, it's proven, right? Why would they buy something that does not talk to each other? They're a very effective system. They've proven its worth. And also another thing like to say, the air defense, core of air defense of Indian Army, while Pakistani officers are busy selling plots and running pizza chains, these guys have been training, honing their skills, deploying their assets in perfect tactical situation, and the result is for everyone to see.
Right.
So just a hat tip to air defense of both Army and Air Force.
No, but in this case, is this program that makes perhaps for just common parlance, an iPhone talk to an Android, talk to a radio set, talk to a divergent perhaps pad, smart pad, all of them talking to each other and activating each other simultaneously. So it's a Russian-made S-400 missile. There is an indigenous Akash Tir here.
Yes.
There is an Israeli procured radar here systems. So how are each
and
of them?
there's a French plane flying in between.
There is a French plane flying amidst all of this. So how do they talk to each other? And this is something which is domestically being done.
Yes. So typically you would not have one system, indigenous system of one country talking to each other naturally, right? But Akash Tir has created that capability where that gap has been filled. So everybody is connected. Everybody is aware of what the situational awareness is phenomenal right now. And that is the result. If your planes were flying blind, right, they're not able to talk to each other. They were flying in where missiles are flying, where artillery is, they would know what to do.
Right.
So we have achieved that in Akash Tir. The situational awareness, the electronic warfare has advanced to a great level.
But also, does the cost also escalate?
Most definitely.
As we go up the gradient, is the also cost of air defense going up?
That L-70 around would be few thousand rupees. And there we are reaching millions of dollars. Hence the differentiation between a strategic weapon versus something that can be used more sparingly. You can fire 10,000 rounds of L-70 and hit 5 drones maybe.
Correct.
but you have to fire one S4 and get the hit for sure.
Sure.
That is why when Kusha will come,
Yeah.
Kusha has a hit rate of 98%.
Wow.
98%.
So वो निकला तो फिर निशाने पर जाकर ही रहेगा. It is confirmed.
So
almost near confirmed that it's going to find
So
its
we will
mark.
have two things, right?
Yeah.
When we fire BrahMos, nobody is stopping it.
Correct.
You fire something, we have Kusha.
Kusha.
We are stopping everything.
So we are solid in our defense, but we are also unbeatable in our offense. So that's the situation.
matter
that
of, I think, 3 more years when they plan to deploy Kusha.
Matter of, I think, 3 more years.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the entire air defense conversation. Major Manik Jolly, thank you very much. But now what we're going to do is, I'm going to ask you to walk with us to this wall, and I'm going to request our viewers also to pay your attention. Now, there are two big developments that happened. Major Manik Jolly, before he decided to say bye to the uniform and became a veteran himself, was with the Gorkha Rifles. So Ayo Gorkhali is your shout out, and he's operated in this region. This is Jammu and Kashmir, and where there is a reason why we are bringing this up right now. Only earlier in the day, the confirmation has happened in Tral. The 3 more terrorists have been neutralized. Those 3, we'll try and put those pictures up also. Asif Ahmed Sheikh, Amir Nazir Wani, and Yawar Ahmed Bhatt. Yawar Ahmed Bhatt is a Pakistani, he's an FT, he's from Jaish. And the other 2, one is from Mungama in Tral, and the second one is from Khasipura in Tral. Now this is close to in Shopaya, this region. This is Tral. Now this is Tral, and further down in this region we will have Shopaya, and here is Pahalgam. So if I may move this map here, so this is Pahalgam here. So let's try and understand. Now this region is Pahalgam, where 22nd April happens, Major?
Yeah.
Correct? Now this is Tral. This is where today's attack has happened. So let's say 15th of May, 1505.
Yeah.
And then Shopaya comes here, somewhere here, doesn't it? Further down.
Yeah.
So we will get Shopaya is somewhere here in this region only. Shopaya is somewhere here. I'll just mark that out in a bit. So Shopaya happens day before yesterday.
Okay.
So 6 terrorists have been neutralized in this region. Now, what is important and why is Tral so important? Why is this region Tral so important?
So Tral has been a hotbed of terrorism for very long.
And explain the terrain of Tral. How easy, difficult is it? And explain to our viewers this entire encounter mechanism. How does this happen?
So,
okay. So this red dot, this is Shopaya. Okay. Yeah. So this happens, this is on the 13th. This is 1305. So in this region, so Pahalgam wala region and this region, it's almost very similar that these terrorists are all hovering around in this area. So this is Pahalgam. So here is Pahalgam, here is Tral, and here is Shopaya. So this is the line in this area. Ji.
So tell you, this is typically a small valley that is coming down, a gap. So you would always have terrorists coming down, hiding in forests, and coming down into valley to go to, people, small villages, residential area for food, cover, connectivity with OGWs, all that. Right? So I can't go into too much detail.
Correct.
What we try and do is catch them where they are most vulnerable.
Okay, let's just expand Tral a bit and explain the terrain to us. Is it easy, difficult? Why is this a hotbed? Why is Tral a hotbed for a lot of the terrorists, this region?
So, you see these mountains?
Yeah.
And you see this plain starting?
Yeah.
When they converge into this bowl kind of a thing, it means your terrorists in tracks or groups are coming down and they're taking this part to go into the entire area which is populated. So this becomes a narrow passage. Tral has been active only because it is a very important route.
Right.
So many areas in Kashmir become very active because they were very critical routes. Like in Kupwara there were some, or here you have Tral. So we also try and catch them where the small bottlenecks are.
Right. So where you think that they will also be caught. But because if I look at Tral, around Tral, this entire region, it's empty, right? This is quite a big stretch where there is not too much of population, vegetation. There's a lot of vegetation, but not too much population. So this is empty area. So this, and like you said, it's coming down the mountains.
This is what typically called foothills.
Foothills.
So you can't have village house. There might be some beheks or doks and all that. That's all right. But the main villages will start from here, where you see small nala. So water, right? When the water sources start catching up, reaching where you can use it, you'll start you'll start seeing villages coming up.
Correct.
So what it does is that even though it is empty area, but when it snows, when the vegetation is up, it looks very different on map. On ground, it has a lot of contours. So even if you are walking in a land where there's a small land contour of 1 or 2 meters, you effectively can continue walking in that for a long time, invisible.
Invisibly.
That is what these bowls give access to these tracks coming in. The contours and the gaps in land are very good for them.
Right. So now when you are planning an op and when you're doing some, now if I'm just going to pull this back a bit, this here, and we are in Tral and there is Pahalgam. Pahalgam पहाड़ी में है पूरा सर. ये पूरा पहाड़ी में. ये पूरा पहाड़ी इलाका है. This is all tourist area.
Yes.
This is also valley. So it's easy for terrorists to, slip, give the security forces the slip and the cordon, because if I look at this, ये तो जंगल है. जंगल में ढूंढने में क्या तकलीफ है? What is the problem? Many people may turn around enough.
That's the thing. So you and I are like 2 meters apart.
Correct.
Step 2 more meters.
Right.
You'll be invisible to me.
In these jungles.
That thick is the vegetation. That is the thing people don't understand, that it is not only how taxing it is physically to walk in tough vegetations, right? It is rough vegetation and dense vegetation. It is also the invisibility that makes it so difficult. And drones are also ineffective because the tree cover is so high.
Yeah, the vegetation, lot of pines and the trees themselves are very dense. You don't get.
So people say, why not heat signature? If you don't have visibility, there is no picking up of heat signature. That's some ray has to come back to give you that heat signature.
Right.
So drones become pretty much ineffective.
Right.
You have to have line of sight even for that signature to come.
Right.
So effectively, hundreds of us, you, me, and 98 more, would take a very long time to cover even a small stretch, because we don't do jungle bashing for the heck of it.
Right.
We check every nook, corner, because there are underground also, right?
Right.
Small
caves also. Caves possible.
Caves and
hideouts possible.
It's a very taxing, tedious, slow process.
Taxing, tedious, slow process. How an operation happens, let's imagine the distance between me and Major Manik Jolly is less than about 1.5 meters. Another 1 meter, I'll go out of the frame, but that means I'll also go out of his line of sight or vision, especially in these areas, that is Tral. So not easy conducting ops and also neutralizing terrorists in regions like this that we are seeing. Tral, Shopaya, and that too after when they are coming to this side of the mountain post Pahalgam. Were they directly linked to Pahalgam or not? We are not yet sure, but that is subject. But clearly the operations, our forces are out there to neutralize whatever terrorist footprint that is in Jammu and Kashmir. We're going to take a very, very short break. Major Jolly, thank you very much. Yeah, quickly, you wanted to say something. Yeah.
Just one quick thing. The fact that security forces have concentrated here, they've taken down 2 tracks, 3 here, and they are in that line. It means the activity was there. What Indian Army has done is effectively covered down. These could be backups.
Right.
These could be supporting, people. These could be somebody who are helping them escape. There could be 10 versions, but the fact that they're still hanging around in the same area around,
right,
it means there was a possibility they were connected.
Right. So this is the stretch. This is the stretch, and this is where the activity is. There is Pahalgam here, there is Shopaya here, and there is Tral in this area, and that's where the activity currently is concentrated as far as the security forces is concerned. On that note, we're going to take a very, very short break. Stay with us. Stay with us.
They have code-named this operation Operation Sindoor. The Indian Army, through Operation Sindoor, has hit 9 targets.
You try to target our bases, you try to target our capital, or you try to target our cities, we will hit you so hard that you will not be able to fly your machine.
News coming out that nervous Pakistan is seeming to wave the white flag.
This is what Manoj Gupta is bringing for us, this piece of information that Pakistan wants to de-escalate.
As we slip into evening on May 10, Donald Trump, US President, has now announced that India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire.
Donald Trump posting on Truth Social that both India and Pakistan have announced a ceasefire.
News18 network. India's largest news network.
To the reports that were doing the rounds earlier about India hitting Kirana Hills in Pakistan, which, remember, houses their nuclear weaponry as well. Now, the global nuclear watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, which is popularly known as the IAEA, has said that there has been no radiation leak from any nuclear facility in Pakistan after the escalated military engagement with India. This is in response to a query on whether any nuclear incident or spill has been brought to the notice of the IAEA's Incident and Emergency Center. India had earlier denied hitting Kirana Hills in Pakistan, which allegedly houses Pakistan's nukes. I go back to Siddhant on that story. Siddhant, all the wagging tongues finally put to rest?
Well, yes, Akanksha. It looks like after the statement from the nuclear watchdog, perhaps I think all this chatter and rumor around India hitting Kirana Hills, perhaps where Pakistan's nuclear arsenal have been kept. Perhaps the rumor and chatter will be put to an end, Akanksha. In fact, since 10th of May, there was chatter on social media platforms that India has hit Kirana Hills, and there is a radioactive. There could be a possibility of a radioactive leak in that particular area. In fact, an Egyptian plane perhaps has landed near to the Kirana Hills. Perhaps it was assumed that that plane has been sent to see whether there is a leak of a radioactive substance to do the assessment. This plane has come, but now since the nuclear watchdog has said that no leakage has taken place in that particular area, and perhaps has denied any reports of any nuclear site being hit by the Indian Armed Forces. In fact, Akanksha, on the very first day, Air Marshal Bharti also made it very clear that we don't know what is there in Kirana Hills, but we have not hit that site. So India made its position very clear, and now the international nuclear watchdog is also perhaps saying something on the similar lines.
And when the IAEA says that, this means that the matter has now been globally put to rest. Glad, Siddhant, that you mentioned what Air Marshal A.K. Bharti had to say, because let's play out his reaction when he was the first one to dismiss all of those rumors. Let's listen in to what Air Marshal A.K. Bharti said.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday.
All right. I go back to Siddhant on that note. Siddhant, of course, it was peppered with a bit of sarcasm when he had responded to that query. But I think what's most important right now is to indicate that the IAEA, which is the global nuclear watchdog, when it steps in and declares that there has been no radioactive leak so far, that also lays to rest all of those reports that were doing the rounds, that perhaps there was a US intervention which was being sought, perhaps there was a Chinese intervention that was being sought, as you rightly highlighted, that there's been a lot of chatter ever since and panic on both.
Thank you for staying with us here on Nation at 5. I'm Poonam Burde. India's precision airstrikes during the recent 4-day conflict with Pakistan have left behind a trail of destruction. Global media is now echoing what India had claimed all along. New York Times, Washington Post, after reviewing high-resolution satellite imagery and aftermath visuals, confirmed extensive damage to Pakistan's military infrastructure. The New York Times said India had a clear edge, with damage mostly inflicted by India on Pakistani airfields. It reports that India hit high-value targets like the Noor Khan Air Base, just miles from Pakistan's army headquarters. Meanwhile, the Washington Post called it the most extensive Indian airstrike since the 1971 war. Its analysis confirms that runways, hangars, Air Force buildings were hit at least across 6 Pakistani bases, some as deep as 100 miles inside the country. Prime Minister S. Jaishankar sent out a loud and clear message just a short while ago to Pakistan. He said India's goal is to dismantle terror, which the country has achieved. He also said that the Indus Water Treaty will remain in abeyance and talks with Pakistan will only and always be on terror.
talks with Pakistan. I think the Prime Minister made it very clear that the only talks with Pakistan will be on terror. That Pakistan has a list of terrorists who need to be handed over. They have to shut down the terrorist infrastructure. They know what to do. We are prepared to discuss with them what is to be done on terrorism. Those are the talks which are feasible. Water issues have been raised. Again, you all know, and I re-emphasize, the Cabinet Committee on Security and the government, obviously, was very clear that the Indus Waters Treaty is held in abeyance and will be continued to be held in abeyance until cross-border terrorism by Pakistan is credibly and irrevocably stopped.
Siddhant now joins us, getting us more details and more perspective on this. Siddhant, the External Affairs Minister once again reiterating India's stance that if we have talks with Pakistan, they are going to be only on terrorism, and until terrorism is uprooted, until Pakistan ends state-sponsored terrorism, until then, there is going to be no condition, no change as far as the IWT is concerned.
Well, that's right, Poonam. And in fact, this is for the first time that EAM S Jaishankar has put forth, the things. And in fact, he said it very clearly that many issues have been raised. Our relations will be strictly bilateral and no change in condition. The PM said that only talks will be on terrorism. So he again reiterated India's position that if there can be any talk with Pakistan, that should be on the vacation of illegally occupied Kashmir by Pakistan. In fact, he also made it very clear that the government made it clear that IWT, Indus Waters Treaty, is in abeyance and will continue until cross-border terrorism is stopped. This is also in context, Poonam, that now what Pakistan is doing, that Pakistan, while speaking to the other countries, is perhaps raising the issue of Indus Waters Treaty being kept in abeyance by the Indian side. Also, EM said that once they got hit badly on morning of May 10th, all you have seen that pictures of the damage, they will tell what hit they took. So, that's a very strong statement coming from Minister Jaishankar. Perhaps, again, he's reiterating that Indian armed forces got the Pakistanis down on their knees, and because of which only, the calls were initiated by them, perhaps, ceasing the hostilities. And a very important point he made on US-India trade talks. And in fact, he says that these are very complicated negotiations, but any trade deal has to be mutually beneficial. That is our expectation from the trade deal. Perhaps this statement is coming at a time when tomorrow we've been told that Minister Goel is going to go to United States to hold trade talks with the United States. And also, Poonam, we have been hearing a lot of commentary coming from the US government in the last 1 week, perhaps, saying that India has lowered the rates, India has agreed to our terms, etc., etc.
It comes at a time when President Donald Trump has been claiming credit for brokering the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, where he said that it was trade that we used as a tool, as leverage to get both countries to back down. At such a time, the kind of comments that have come to the fore from the External Affairs Minister are extremely crucial. But Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. As far as the India-Pakistan conflict is concerned, there is a world narrative that's building. Yalda Hakim, a journalist, a TV presenter with Sky News, recently drew attention for confronting Pakistani ministers with tough, uncomfortable questions. She has caught the eye of many across the world for challenging Pakistan's long-standing denials about promoting terrorism. Listen in to this exclusive chat Yalda Hakim had with CNN News 18's Zaka Jacob.
What drew you to the India-Pakistan conflict situation, as it were? I know your family originally is from Afghanistan, so you're from this part of the world, if I can use that phrase. But really, in terms of a news story, what drew you to it? What was so fascinating about it for you to cover as a journalist?
Zaka, thank you so much for having me on your program. As you say, I mean, the region has often interested me. I've covered stories from India, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan for many years, from the very beginning of my journey as a journalist. But I think beyond that, this was and remains an incredibly important story that I feel that frankly Western media continues to miss and doesn't quite understand. They don't understand why Kashmir is such a flashpoint. They don't understand why it is such a hot topic for both India and Pakistan. And beyond that, the fact that you've got two nuclear armed rivals that could be at the brink of war. I think even in this instance, what is now alarming, which is being again missed by Western capitals and their leaders, is the fact that certain red lines have now been crossed and that baseline has now moved, which means the next time there is a flashpoint, we are going to have those lines across yet again, and it could become even more dangerous than, frankly, this time round from 2019 and the various other moments where there has been conflict. But my main frustration in my newsroom, whether it was at the BBC or at Sky News, frankly, is a real lack of fully grasping the importance of this country, this conflict, not just for the region, but the entire international community.
You know, it's interesting you said that every time there was a terror attack and there was subsequent military retaliation by India, you know, the envelope was pushed a bit more. The chain of escalation went up a bit more. And so was the case now as well. You know, traditionally it was always thought that two countries that have nuclear weapons, you know, will not attack each other because that's the ultimate form of deterrence, if you will. But over the last 3 or 4 instances, has India sort of changed the game or moved the envelope in a way that Pakistan cannot use these terror proxies and hope or imagine that there will not be a retaliation or there won't be a consequence, or take refuge behind the nuclear weapons and say, you know, India can't hit us because we have the nuclear weapon?
I think it's a little bit of both. I interviewed Ambassador Amar Sinha very early on after the Pahalgam terrorist attack. And at the time, he said that, you know, we can't continue to be told that there will be this nuclear threat and therefore we can't take action and that we have to tolerate a terrorist attack on Indian soil time and time again. And I think that you know, it's one of those things where what is most concerning is that not only is Pakistan a nuclear armed state, which of course India is too, but it also does have this policy, for those who know Pakistan's history and its relationship with terror organizations, backing them, funding them, supporting them, giving sanctuary to terrorist organizations, whether it was in Bahawalpur or other parts of the country in the tribal belts. They have done that for decades. And I think what's often missed is because Pakistan comes out and denies these, it is often bought by journalists and, frankly, diplomats around the world. The United States spent decades giving billions of dollars to Pakistan in the war against terror, knowing that they were providing sanctuary for these terrorist organizations. And so the finger of blame is often pointed at India for taking action off the back of one of these attacks. And I think that, you know, there is huge difference between India and Pakistan. India is now a great power and Pakistan is a weaker power, and it is still finding itself not cracking down on these terrorist groups. And fundamentally, that is the issue. But these are questions that aren't necessarily asked of Pakistani authorities.
On that note, taking a quick break on this edition of Nation at 5. Back in just a few minutes. Do stay tuned.
They have code-named this operation Operation Sindoor. The Indian Army, through Operation Sindoor, has hit 9 targets.
You try to target our bases, you try to target our capital, or you try to target our cities, we will hit you so hard that you will not be able to fly your machine.
News coming out that nervous Pakistan is seeming to wave the white flag.
This is what Manoj Gupta is bringing for us, this piece of information.
that Pakistan wants to de-escalate.
As we slip into evening on May 10, Donald Trump, US President, has now announced that India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire.
Donald Trump posting on Truth Social that both India and Pakistan have announced a ceasefire.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To the reports that were doing the rounds earlier about India hitting Kirana Hills in Pakistan, which remember houses their nuclear weaponry as well. Now, the global nuclear watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, which is popularly known as the IAEA, has said that there has been no radiation leak from any nuclear facility in Pakistan after the escalated military engagement with India. This is in response to a query on whether any nuclear incident or spill has been brought to the notice of the IAEA's Incident and Emergency Center. India had earlier denied hitting Kirana Hills in Pakistan, which allegedly houses Pakistan's nukes. I go back to Siddhant on that story. Siddhant, all the wagging tongues finally put to rest?
Well, yes, Akanksha. It looks like after the statement from the nuclear watchdog, perhaps I think all this chatter and rumor around India hitting Kirana Hills, perhaps where Pakistan's nuclear arsenal have been kept. Perhaps the rumor and chatter will be put to an end, Akanksha. In fact, since 10th of May, there was chatter on social media platforms that India has hit Kirana Hills and there is a radioactive. There could be a possibility of a radioactive leak in that particular area. In fact, an Egyptian plane perhaps has landed near to the Kirana Hills. Perhaps it was assumed that that plane has been sent to see whether there is a leak of a radioactive substance to do the assessment. This plane has come, but now since the nuclear watchdog has said that no leakage has taken place in that particular area and perhaps has denied any reports of any nuclear site being hit by the Indian Armed Forces. In fact, Akanksha, on the very first day, Air Marshal Bharti also made it very clear that we don't know what is there in Kirana Hills, but we have not hit that site. So India made its position very clear, and now the international watchdog, nuclear watchdog, is also perhaps saying something on the similar lines.
And when the IAEA says that, this means that the matter has now been globally put to rest. Glad, Siddhant, that you mentioned what Air Marshal A.K. Bharti had to say, because let's play out his reaction when he was the first one to dismiss all of those rumors. Let's listen in to what Air Marshal A.K. Bharti said.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday.
All right. I go back to Siddhant on that note. Siddhant, of course, it was peppered with a bit of sarcasm when he had responded to that query. Yeah. But I think what's most important...
Welcome back. There's some breaking news that's now coming in. Politics continues to peak over Operation Sindoor and the individuals that were involved in it. The latest one is Samajwadi Party MP Ram Gopal Yadav, who's now made a casteist remark against Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, who played a key role in the success of Operation Sindoor. She has been the face of the many briefings that the Ministry of Defence and the MEA have been jointly holding to apprise the country of Operation Sindoor. Ram Gopal Yadav has now used a derogatory casteist term against Wing Commander Vyomika Singh. Manmohan Rai, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Manmohan, the list of leaders using derogatory terms, making controversial remarks against India's heroes is only increasing. Akhilesh Yadav's leader now being the latest one.
Yes, you're right. This is the latest case. The senior leader of Samajwadi Party, Ram Gopal Yadav, is a senior parliamentarian. He's used a derogatory term against Vyomika Singh, She was one of the leading faces to address the press conference after Operation Sindoor concluded. And he went on to say that the three people who were addressing the press conference, Sophia Qureshi, Vyomika Singh and Avdesh Bharti, they are part of PDA. But going along, he used a derogatory term for Vyomika Singh. He said that she is a Jatav and then used a derogatory term for her, which would not be all right for me to repeat. And so that has created a fresh controversy. And this is the latest controversial statement to come out of UP.
Any reaction so far coming in from anybody within the Samajwadi Party or even the BJP perhaps, Manmohan?
So this has just happened. I'm sure there will be some counter reactions to all this. But this has just happened a few minutes back. And obviously social media is active and people are accusing Ram Gopal of using such a derogatory term. But the official reaction from BJP, Congress is yet to come.
What was the context in which Ram Gopal Yadav was making this remark? Why is it that he felt the need in the first place to invoke their caste at all?
See, what really happened is that he was addressing a public gathering. He was in Moradabad. So he said that, the Samajwadi Party's latest slogan is PDA, Pichda, Dalit, Alpasankhyak. So Pichda is OBC, Dalit is Dalit, and Alpasankhyak is minorities, Muslims. So he said we are with PDA, and the three big faces of Operation Sindoor, those who addressed press conferences on 2 consecutive days, are also members of PDA. So Sophia Qureshi is a Muslim, Air Marshal Avdesh Bharti is a Yadav from Bihar, and Vyomika Singh is a Jatav. So there is a subcaste among Jatavs. Some people use that word, which is derogatory. It is considered illegal, unparliamentary. So he said that she's a Jatav and then used that word. So that has created a fresh row, a fresh controversy, and this is seen as pulling down our national heroes and labeling them with a caste.
Right. Do stay on with us. BJP's Anila Singh joins us on the broadcast. Thank you so much for speaking with us here, ma'am, on CNN News 18. Your first reaction to what Ram Gopal Yadav has said?
My Ram Ram to all, and this is so weird, bizarre, shocking, obnoxious. How a leader like Ram Gopal Yadav can say such a derogatory thing for a soldier. And his leader, his party's president, Akhilesh Yadav, he keeps on talking about PDA. What type of nonsense is this? She is representing our country. She is a force in herself. She is a Shakti. And this person is humiliating her. This is not for the Vyomika Singh, this is for the nation. He has humiliated whole of the nation. And we want answer for it. Why he has said so.
Ma'am, but if you're talking about action and answers from Akhilesh Yadav, what about the BJP's minister, the MP minister, who also had distasteful remarks to make about and controversial remarks to make about another soldier, Colonel Sophia Qureshi? No action has been taken by the BJP against him.
Yeah, I know one thing. Whether it is BJP or Samajwadi Party or any other political party or any person, coming from any organization, institution or the family, if that person is humiliating the armed forces of our country, that is absolutely incorrect. क्योंकि ये राजनीति की बात नहीं है, ये राजनीतिक दलों की बात नहीं है, ये अपमान है तो देश का अपमान है और उसका उत्तर देना होगा, चाहे वो किसी भी दल से आ रहा हो या वो कोई भी कितना भी बड़ा नेता हो.
We do hope that does happen, and the BJP, the Samajwadi Party all walk the talk when they raise questions and rein in their leaders when they make such controversial comments. But Anila Singh, thank you so much for speaking with us. It is a wrap from my side here on Nation at 5. Shivani Gupta joins you next.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. India has made it again clear that talks with Pakistan will only take place on terror and that the Indus Water Treaty will remain in abeyance till Pakistan supports terror against India. This line was reiterated by External Affairs Minister today, nullifying any pressures on India on this front. There was also a message for US President Donald Trump, who suggested that he will, if he hasn't already, keep trade as a bargaining chip over India when it comes to the situation with Pakistan. Dr. S Jaishankar made it clear that India is only interested in a deal that works for us, for India. This in context of India working out a trade deal with the US. Meanwhile, Pakistan is the butt of jokes further today after Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's sorry attempt at aping Indian Prime Minister by visiting allegedly bases that were struck by India. Images show nothing of significance except for an outdated military that is showing off its tanks in the age of drone and air defense systems. Focus is rightly on Pakistan's nuke weapons now. India is not only putting pressure on financial watchdogs, but also on the nuclear watchdog, while emphasizing again that India will not be blackmailed by the Pakistan nuclear bogey. But first, let me give you a sense of the pictures that emerged from the Indian Prime Minister's visit to the Adapur base yesterday and what Shehbaz Sharif, the